many years ago. Rob's a health educator, a health researcher, but I think the thing that blesses me the most about my good friend Rob, first of all, he's humble, and second of all, I don't think personally I've ever met anyone who is more passionate and willing to help people in their health and wellness. He's the type of person that if he had the only shirt he had on his back, he would give it to somebody. But I'm going to let Rob come up and kind of take it from here. We give Rob a warm welcome.
Thank you. This is what this is all about. It's about sharing, helping other people, guiding people. And so 50 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with bladder cancer and was told there was really nothing they could do. He had no more than 2 years to live. And here, as an answer to prayer, God's sending you on a journey. It was a Freedom of Choice Cancer Club in Euclid, and then missionary friends, a family out of the country, using enzyme treatments from a German pharmaceutical company. And here we brought that into Cleveland, found a couple Cleveland doctors that would actually work with us. So they said, this is all real, and they basically swore us to secrecy because they said, Dr. Boyd said, we'll take my license and put me in jail for doing this. So I got to remember, this is back in the 70s. And so here we implemented all that, and then I was late today coming out because I had to take my 90-year-old dad shopping. And so that started our journey in 1975, and then in 1987, an opportunity, and my mother was involved in the natural foods industry, and then she wanted to open up a store with a friend of theirs, and so I helped them out by going in and physically building the store. And as I'm doing that, here we had more friends, family, neighbors who all died. And so people with all kinds of illnesses, the miracles of modern medicine didn't work for them. And so here we have all this information, and it's like we need someplace at the retail level to be educating people. So we built Vita Connection at Pine Ridge Plaza in Willoughby, and ran that for 18 years, being taught by doctors, researchers, and then we're doing patient referrals, research with all the local hospitals, Case Medical School. And that led into opening up a pharmacy program. So I closed it and then built the Health Education Center for Health Quest Pharmacy. That led into opening up a public education program through Heinen's, because we found out the doctors who were teaching us still today are not allowed to fully tell you all this information. So the food, the supplements, nutraceuticals are not FDA approved drugs, and it violates the insurance liability. And so here we have a system that can't get out of its own way. And then one of our medical conferences last year, presented by local doctors, nurses, oncologists. Third leading cause of death in the United States is medical errors. Second leading cause of death is cancer. A lot of the deaths from cancer are the side effects of the treatments, not the cancer. And then what we've all seen with the fentanyl crisis and opioids is just the tip of the iceberg, as we're now looking at iatrogenic deaths, injuries, addictions, and injuries. And so I had to look up iatrogenic, see what it meant, and here it's medically induced health problems. So side effects of the treatment that can help so many people make somebody else's statistic. And our doctors aren't taught or trained or have a test to discern who it's going to help, who it might harm. As this morning, we got a call from one of my wife's friends, and here we had made food, delivered it to the house. I spoke to the husband 3 weeks ago. He was being treated, and none of the nutritional stuff was offered by his oncologist. I said, here's the doctors in the hospital you're attending. You need to ask questions, and you need to do this. And so here this morning, we got the call, they just put him into hospice. And so here's another statistic that probably need not be. So anyways, after doing all this, a number of years later, I was introduced to John Mara, who also had a bladder cancer similar to my dad. He was sent on the same journey. We met and partnered, and through friends, we're guided. And here, As you can see, here's our logo that we were helped with putting together. And so does everybody know what that is? The elephant in the room that nobody's allowed to talk about. And then the green elephant is representing the green foods we should be eating. And so here last February 10th and 11th, I attended the microbiome conference at Case Medical School, and here doctors, researchers nationwide and from out of the country attended, showing us just how what we eat influences the microbiome bacteria in your gut. And so now we know that there are more bacteria in your gut that basically break down all the food you eat, and they manufacture fatty acids, essential fats, vitamins, enzymes, and do all kind. And they're part 70% of your immune system. And this is all in your digestive tract. There's more bacteria in your gut than all the cells in your entire body. And so we joke and we tell people, remember, you never dine alone, and be careful what you feed your guests. And here what was shown with all the medical research, and a lot of it took 20 years to validate what we've all known for 50 years. And people knew this 1,000 years ago. So it's like looking at all the medicinal herbs and looking historically at all the herbs that were used by different tribes and civilizations. And here they were using that because it kept them healthy. It wasn't just because it made the food taste good. So this was a science and art going way back that we're just rediscovering. And here we are continuing on the national healthcare crisis. And so here, working with a large group of doctors, here the theme for one of our medical conferences last year was to do no harm. And then we're in violation of that. And second binding promise of the society is to teach those who follow. So to teach the medical students who will fulfill, and then I interpreted it as teaching all of you as the people that came into our lives to teach us, because we didn't know. We were a family growing up in Richmond Heights. Parents went to Mayfield High School, and now 19 years old, and my dad's told to go home and die. And my mom is told to prepare to pay the mortgage and raise your 2 kids on your own. And so here, just through part of this journey and starting out at Heinen's grocery store, where we were given their Chardon store to run a public education program. And here we had a doctor that has been a lifelong researcher in nutrition, health, genetics, and cancer. Came from Croatia, comes to Cleveland. Anyways, this was on the front page of the News Herald, 2007. We presented this in a grocery store. And so here's a simulation of a microchip and a simulated array of your genetics, and here's how food impacts your genes. So here are the gut bacteria. So your friends that you feed every day, they talk and communicate with all the cells in your body. So there is a communication network that we don't fully understand, but we observe it and we see it. And this is how the human body is able to heal and repair itself. And it's only with food. And so here, looking at the Garden of Eden, looking at the reference of all the spices and herbs in the Bible, and then Brian and I were going through the Bible and we're looking at, it's like there is no reference to Diet Coke and Twinkies in the Bible, or the Garden of Eden. And it must be for they taste good. And so here, this was put out by the Cleveland Clinic, and I actually have the flyers in the back, and it's a test that's available. And then here, taking my dad through all the hospitals, I'll use the Cleveland Clinic, but they represent all the hospitals. And so Cleveland Clinic has been a forerunner in trying to bring this to light. And here the pushback and the inability to actually offer it to all their patients is something that is still not happening. And so here we are presenting this to the public. And here, the tenase and nutrigenomics and proper diets are risk factors for disease. Dietary chemicals alter gene expression and or genome structure. Influence of diet on health depends on an individual's genetic makeup. Genes regulated by diet play a role in chronic disease. Diets based on genotype, nutritional requirements, and status can prevent or mitigate chronic disease. And so here my dad, I take him in for his annual cystoscopy. He outlived his original urologist and surgeon, whose son has taken over. And so we have this all documented, just as well as what John has documented in hundreds of other people, all reporting what they've experienced just by making simple changes. And here that was all shown to us at the microbiome conference 2 weeks ago, is how making slight changes in your diet dramatically alters the profile of all these good and bad bacteria. And when you eliminate the high fructose corn syrup and all the processed fats, and here canola oil, corn oil, hydrogenated oils, these are all pro-inflammatory oils that trigger inflammation in your body. And so if you have a serious health problem, this is where people are then taking aggressive measures to dramatically alter their diet. And then what we're finding is you just need to do that for the short time till your body heals. And then, it's like John, my dad went on a strict vegetarian diet for 6 months, and then it was fish and chicken, all the vegetables. We got rid of all processed food altogether. And so now he's 90, and he bought things that I said, you shouldn't be eating that, and he goes, I'm 90, if it kills me in 20 years, I'll eat that. And then John, too, he's a cheating vegan now. And another very important part of this whole process is here all the organic food, green foods, all the spices. The most important part is prayer. So prayer, meditation, belief, stress. So all the spiritual baggage, all the ways of the world that can bog us down, they're very important participants in health problems, and we might not even be aware of it. And so that is getting things right with the Lord, forgiveness, trying to get rid of stress, which is not always easy. And then that's where prayer and asking God to carry the weight of the world, or the Lord will send you on a journey and open your eyes, and then you're able to see how to navigate and get back on track. And sometimes it takes a while. So here, leading causes of death in the United States. So this is an older PowerPoint presentation, but it still pertains to what's going on right now. And then here, a lot of the cancers have started diminishing in our older ages, but now they're dramatically increased in ages from 17 to 34. And then we're having children born with cancer. And it's like, where do you think that's coming from? So here, our environment, how we eat, how we live, how we think is actually genetically imprinted in your genes. This has been part of a preconception to infancy project, so looking at how husband and wife can clean up their diet, change everything, and here that's all imprinted in the sperm and egg, and here healthy children are born, eliminating pregnancy complications, which is a whole other topic that we're not going to go into, but your diet and lifestyle environment impacts your genes, and this is genes passed on to future generations, or the genes you can actually fix and repair now. So now we know our genes aren't always fixed in stone, so they can be modulated, turned on and off through what you're eating, and then through your own thoughts, stress, all have an impact on genetic expression. And so like we're saying, we have a lot of genes in the body, but there's more gut bacteria than all the cells in your entire body, which is just hard to fathom. And it's like, who do you think made that? It wasn't Merck. And then here from the microbiome conference, in looking at inflammation, and then everybody's been hearing about leaky gut, probiotics, now prebiotics. All the plant fibers are the prebiotic, which is the fibers that become the environment for the good bacteria to grow. So when you stop feeding the bad guys all the sugar and processed chemicals, they actually diminish in population, and then the healthy, strong bacteria that are part of your immune system and that manufacture what your body needs, they become the dominant strains. And so what happens, you can see the pointer here, your intestinal lining is made up of cells. It's a very thin membrane, 26 feet of your intestines. Also contains the vagus nerve, which is part of your brain. So you have that gut feeling, it's really true. So a lot of mental health problems, neurological problems, foggy thinking, stress, anxiety, ADD, A lot of this is all stemming from the gut, and in here people are finding change in their diets, either better managing or it's completely gone. And so what happens is there's been looking at wheat, gluten as a causation. Now we know there's other chemicals. We're starting to see food items and grains that say glyphosate free. So Roundup Ready as an herbicide has now been used to desiccate and dry wheat, oats in the field, so you don't have to bring it in and risk having things go moldy. So they dry it in the field, and theoretically there's still chemical residues. They muck up the bacteria in your gut. And so any number of environmental exposures, whether it's chemicals, agriculture, stress, antibiotics you're given, food dyes, all those things. And what it does is it compromises the lining and inflammation, and then now you end up with the passageway. So now here, these little villi, they absorb all the nutrients and transfer through the cell membranes into your bloodstream. And now here, through any number of other bad things that can happen to your gut, is undigested proteins, particles, toxins can now just go right through into your bloodstream where they don't belong. And so it's like your skin is a barrier, so you can put whatever on your skin, it doesn't get in your bloodstream unless you have a cut. Well, here's a cut in the lining of your digestive tract. And now you've got foreign particles in your bloodstream, and your immune system sees them and attacks them to get rid of them. And if you don't heal your gut up, you're constantly having stuff leak into your bloodstream that your body is attacking, and then through some mechanism, this is what's triggering what they see as autoimmune diseases of all the different varieties that you never heard of 20, 30 years ago. And now it's epidemic. And what we're seeing is people changing their diet, healing the gut, and then your body heals, and then we're seeing mechanisms can be used nutritionally to actually turn off the autoimmune response. And then they have citations where even type 2 diabetic, the diabetes is turned off at the genetic level, or people are able to better manage it. So we're seeing type 1 and type 2 managed without insulin and medications. And you don't know if you're going to respond favorably like that until you try. And then, yeah, so here's like the villi microscope picture. This is the better rendition. So you actually, nobody ever showed us a picture of our gut or the bacteria that you feed every day. So those dinner guests. So here, leaky gut progression, food intolerances, immune abnormalities, autoimmune condition. So there's how it happens. It just doesn't happen. We do it to ourselves. Or environmental exposures. And then I have a book back there called Blindsided. So here's a really extreme case. And so here is a herbicide developed by DuPont, and they were using it in third world countries. And here, a field worker was accidentally doused with really high dosages. And then she ends up getting married, has a child. They moved to New York City. Her son is born with no eyeballs. And so here, what they found was the enzyme that this herbicide neutralized in the weeds to block the weed growth. It's the exact same enzyme in the human body that triggers stem cells to become the human eyeball. And because she was exposed to such high levels. And so there's one extreme case. But now you just look at all the chemicals, additives. So we know there's over 2,000 food additives in U.S. packaged food. The same packaged food in Europe, they are illegal. They're not allowed to use them. And then we're just talking to friends right now who are traveling, going to Europe, and here they're eating everything over there, and their health problems go away. They lose weight. They come back and start eating the same healthy foods, and now they're sick again. And then I just had spoken with another person who came to America, was super fit, came to America young, so he was hanging out with his friends and fast food and staying out late, and he gained 100 pounds, and then he started collecting specialists who kept prescribing more medications, and at like 30 years old he realized his life was on the line. And so he did extreme turnabout, changed his diet, all fresh food, back down to 190 pounds, super physically fit, no medication. And there's how gluten and other cross triggers get into your bloodstream. So asthma, allergies, psoriasis, eczema, and then here Crohn's, colitis, ADD, type 1 diabetes. And so here, this is just one of many avenues for our bodies to break down that's supporting different disease processes. And then here, everybody, I was just joking with Brian, it's like we need to go to our doctors and get a prescription for permission to be proactive in our own health. And so what we all know is our medical system, as it has the best life-saving medications and surgery in the history of mankind, is reactive medicine. And so it's not preventable medicine. And then we're not using the nutrition as a primary line of defense to treat chronic disease, which is part of the nutrigenomics program. And here's environment, lifestyle. Your germline mutations on the far left are actually your inherited genes, but now we know environment, lifestyle from a husband and wife can impact the genes that are passed on. Here's our metabolic polymorphisms. This is what we're exposed to in the environment. It can alter our genes, turn diseases on, and then you can make changes and turn them off. Percentage of diseases that could be prevented. It's not even talking about that could be reversed, as we're seeing lots of reversals. And so doctors said, we had our doctors, Cleveland Clinic, University Hospital, others, they said food had nothing to do with the healing, it was a miracle. And then it's like, no, this is what food does in the human body, here's the research, and yes, God does perform miracles, and we've all seen them, instantaneous healings, or God leads you on a journey. And we're teaching doctors that, remember, you never practice medicine alone, you have guardian angels at your side to help you better utilize your medical training, and then also look at other options when what you're looking at isn't going to be resolved with what you've been trained with. Yeah, lots of doctors are doing that, and you just don't hear about it. So here was part of these studies. So looking at, everybody's hearing about plant-based diet, this is why. So vegetables are the prebiotics that support all the gut bacteria. They're the ones that talk to your genes and body chemistry that can help fix your body. And we had a big study done by GlaxoSmithKline that was aired in 2006. And here, the 10 cities experiment. So they took 10 major cities, put everybody on plant-based, they put them on a whole foods diet. Got rid of all processed packaged food, exercise, stress management, proper sleep. People got off medication altogether. Their bodies healed, repaired themselves. Other people were able to reduce the amount of medications, reducing the side effects, increasing the efficacy of their medications, and it was a win-win for everybody. And so as a pharmaceutical company, they saw their drug sales go up because more people stayed on the medication and didn't get off of it because of the bad side effects. And so the scientists at GlaxoSmithKline said, you can't medicate a bad diet. And then we said, you can't supplement an inappropriate diet either. So here are people taking medications, now they're taking all these vitamins, and they're really not fully changing their diet to the full extent that they need. And an example was a physician I was lecturing with she looked really healthy, vitamins, salads, and she never said she had excruciating back pain and taking steroids, as we're lecturing on wellness together. And here she found out she had tests for celiac, gluten intolerance that showed negative, and so she's eating wheat thins. And as a last resort, she just gave up all wheat and grains and got rid of all the gluten. All the pain went away, all gone. And so here, these tests are not always 100% accurate. And then just to show how our diet is affecting us, so this was a migrant study. So these are women from Japan, and here, breast cancer is extremely rare. And here, when they came to the United States, first generation, moving to San Francisco from a low baseline, and now they moved to San Francisco, and with this in a year or two, cancer rates rise. It's the food. And so here we know eating real food, and then Brian came up with it and coined JERF, so just eat real food.
It's from my daughter.
That was from your
That's
daughter.
from my
Okay. So it's like, and we can have you guys read the 50 books we bought, brought over here, or you can jerk. So just eat real food and then watch what your body does. And so here's people going on so here a lot of doctors are using a vegetarian diet or using any varieties of vegetarian diets. And we even had Dr. Russellston, who was doing a very strict vegetarian diet, reversing heart disease. And then we had him as a guest speaker. And so I pulled him aside and I said, we got people using modified versions of your diet and they're successfully reversing their heart disease and other problems. And so he looked at me and he goes, well, Rob, there's many ways to get to the top of a mountain. So there's no one doctor has the one magic diet or one magic pill or vitamin. So there's a lot of things. And we found just from the way a lot of beef, there's a lot of chemicals in beef, the way it's farmed, the feed that goes to them has altered the nutritional profiles in the meat, that it's pro-inflammatory. And so a lot of doctors are eliminating meat during the healing process. So just eliminate red meat, pork. And then there's other examples where people are going on a Mediterranean diet and fish and clean meats, small amounts like you would see in Oriental cooking, and they're achieving similar results. So here you can see gene-induced damage from the green, and so the high meat consumption and how it rose. And we think a lot of it has to do with we just eat way too much. And then here's how we've chemically altered the nutritional profiles because of what we feed cows. So cows were never designed to eat all these grains that produce all this bad bacteria that require all the antibiotics and then set up all the damage. So here, hypocrisy, food is medicine, what food and medicine. So let food be your medicine, health is a balance, a healthy diet. The food you eat, exercise, emotion, sleep, music, prayer, frequencies. So do you ever think the colors of all the foods? So that is the rainbow, and that is on the magnetic spectrum. Those are the frequencies that make up visible light that you see. And then when you're eating all the colorful foods, those are going in your body and absorbed and are utilized in any number of ways as part of the healing repair process and actually maintaining healthy gene sequencing. And then a part we don't see is detoxification. So we have different forms of elimination in our bodies. Another area you don't even think about is you have intracellular detoxification. And it best works on real food and hydration. And if you keep putting all this processed stuff in your body, it's like putting dirty oil in your car or being in a room with all the exhaust as you're trying to breathe. And so here, healthy food and herbs provide detoxification and all these different metabolic pathways. So epigenetic modulation of gene expression, food fixing your genes. Diet Coke and Twinkies can't do it. They taste good. You wouldn't put them in the gas tank of your car. We give them to our kids as a treat. So there's something wrong with that. Diet changes your microbiome, so we just covered all that. Yeah.
The yucca. You're going to get to the yucca.
Yeah. Non-resolving inflammation. So here, metabolic syndrome and cancer. So here's how animal protein, sugar feed cancer cells. So what we want to go into then also is the Yucca app that we've been using. So here is a tool that you can download on your phone, and it will actually, you scan the UPC code and it'll give you a breakdown and tell you if it's a good food, bad food. It'll tell you what additives are bad. So we're extremely bad, which are benign. And so I just took it the last couple of days, was doing that this morning. So I was in the couple grocery stores. So I was in the produce department asking people if they had seen this, and they hadn't. And so that's something we want to show and present to you.
Yeah.
So chew well. Your oral microbiome as well as your gut microbiome produces enzyme and bacteria that mix with your food before it goes down your digestive tract. So, okay. So So adding more plant-based foods, just eating more vegetables, eating like our grandparents or great-grandparents. Real simple. Okay. Yeah, here was where Dr. Russellston put people on a strict diet, and you can see the blockage on the left there. So how here's all the plaque narrowing the artery after cleaning up their diet over a period of time. All opened up, body dissolved, removed all of it. And if you need a bypass surgery, God bless the doctors and surgeons that can save our lives doing their surgeries. But if you can change your diet and eliminate or stave off a lot of health problems to 100 years or reverse it, that would be a good option. And that was a book that Dr. Russellson wrote, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease.
Inside all of us lurks a serial killer. A killer whose primary function is to kill and then kill again. These are cytotoxic T cells, a specialized member of our white blood cells. They patrol our bodies, identifying and destroying virally infected and cancer cells. And they do so with remarkable precision and efficiency. About 5 million T cells in a teaspoon of our blood, engaged in a ferocious and unrelenting battle to keep us healthy. These amorphous blobs move around quite rapidly, pushing out their leading edge and probing their environment as they go. When a cytotoxic T cell finds a cancer cell, membrane protrusions rapidly explore the surface of the cell, checking for the telltale signs of cancer. They kill their targets using poisonous proteins, visible here in red. These cytotoxic granules move down special pathways in the cell called microtubules to the interface between the T cell and the cancer cell. The T cell punctures the surface of the cancer cell and delivers its deadly cytotoxins. This is very important in our bodies, where cells are packed together, as it focuses the lethal hit on the target and minimizes collateral damage to the neighboring healthy cells. The fate of the cancer cell is sealed. The T cell then moves on, hungry to find another victim.
So the T killer cell is just one of many of your immune cells. And here I talked to, Merck was at our one conference, and they showed me their Keytruda, their new immunotherapy drug, Keytruda. And, she handed me a stack of research to read, and I go, just tell me how it works. So here, cancer cells secrete an enzyme that turns the T killer cell off, so that it's just laying there dormant on vacation. And then cancer cells are able to subdivide and grow and take over your body. And she goes, well, that's only one part of it. Now we need to make another drug to modulate 70% of your immune system in your gut, which is the majority of your immune system. I go, you don't need to make a drug. Have patients eat vegetables. And here what we're all seeing is John with his and my dad and many others changing their diet. And this is nutritional immunotherapy, putting the immune system back online. We don't understand how it works, but it works. And as the doctor said, it took 20 years to present what they showed us 2 weeks ago. And it's like, we don't have 20 more years to figure out how this works. We just need to do it. And then you listen to some of the, is that what's next? Is the Opdivo? Yeah, so here is one of the immunotherapy drugs. And its tagline is, ask your doctor if you want to live longer. It may extend your life more than 3 months more than chemotherapy, as it lists a long list of side effects.
For adults with advanced non-small cell lung cancer, previously treated with platinum-based chemotherapy, including those with an abnormal ALK or EGFR gene who've tried an FDA-approved targeted therapy, this is big. A chance to live longer. With Opdivo, nivolumab, Opdivo demonstrated longer life and is the most prescribed immunotherapy for these patients. Opdivo significantly increased the chance of living longer versus chemotherapy. Opdivo works with your immune system. Opdivo can cause your immune system to attack normal organs and tissues in your body and affect how they work. This may happen anytime during or after treatment is ended and may become serious and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you experience new or worsening cough, chest pain, shortness of breath, diarrhea, severe stomach pain or tenderness, severe nausea or vomiting, extreme fatigue, constipation, excessive thirst or urine, swollen ankles, loss of appetite, rash, itching, headache, confusion, hallucinations, muscle or joint pain, flushing, fever, or weakness, as this may keep these problems from becoming more serious. These are not all the possible side effects of Opdivo. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems, or if you've had an organ transplant or lung, breathing, or liver problems. A chance to live longer. Ask your doctor about Opdivo. See OpdivoTV.com for this and other indications. Bristol Myers Squibb thanks the patients, nurses, and physicians involved in Opdivo clinical.
Everybody want to try that? And so it may actually help people, and then here we've seen catastrophic results from it. And so we know better, we know more that we could be doing, and here it's not being allowed to happen. And so instead of looking at nutritional immunotherapy and putting our immune system back online, or looking at prevention, we're coming up with treatments that don't really have good outcomes. And so you saw, and that was pulled right from TV. And then the same with Keytruda, and they're working on some others. And so we see the statistics. We've watched, here we're at family funerals, and there's my dad, 90 years old, and then nobody wants to believe it's real, because our government and doctors would never withhold anything that can help us. And then we're going to funerals for my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and they just don't believe it. And then here he is, and there John's sitting here, and everybody has, I think, their own testimony. And so this is why we need to be proactive in our own health before we get into a critical situation like this. And then when you do get in a problem, and God bless our doctors that can diagnose this, but then get a second and third opinion, and then working to be proactive if you do need to follow surgery or treatment, or maybe you're able and positioned to aggressively attack it yourself, which is part of some of these functional medicine and what they're doing through the wellness programs at different hospitals nationwide. Okay, that's it. And I want to have...
You want to do the yucking now?
Yeah, so I'm going to have John, and Brian will take us on a little tour of the Yucca app and expose and see some of the things we just don't even think about, especially if you have kids. And we're all raising kids, and when they're putting things in your grocery basket, and it's like in the handbook, you're not allowed to screen the things your kids want, right?
Explain the Yucca app. Am I right that the Yucca app has a range of 0 to 100?
Right.
Is that right? 100. Everybody here familiar with the Yucca app? It's a free app. I just learned about it recently myself. John knows about it quite well. Tom, would you be willing to turn the lights on up front here, from that? So it's a free app, and what it does, it gives a measure of health rating on a basis of 0 to 100. 100 being the highest in terms of healthy, and then you can scan barcodes at the grocery store for food items as well as cosmetics, and it's become a very popular app. So I took just a couple food items that are pretty popular. We got a box of Lucky Charms here, and pretty popular breakfast cereal. Very unfortunately, I grew up eating a lot of this kind of stuff. Captain Crunch, Sugar Pops, all that kind of stuff. But I'll just read a couple of the ingredients. So we have whole grain corn, sugar, corn syrup, dextrose, trisodium phosphate, and I want to show you something. So I come from a real estate and construction background, and we use trisodium phosphate to clean walls and doors and woodwork in houses. And when a friend of mine on the job site a couple years ago shared with me, he said, Lucky Charms, he said, that has trisodium phosphate in it. And I go, hey, you're crazy. And he goes, go ahead, check it out. So a short period of time afterwards, I was at the store and I thought about it, and sure enough, it has trisodium phosphate. That would be nice to kind of sprinkle a little of that on our kids' cereal, would it not? That'd be really good. Then, it doesn't stop there. We have a red dye number 40, blue number 1, yellow 5 and 6, and other color added natural and artificial flavor. And by the way, when you see, I've just learned this as well, when you see natural flavors on a product, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's natural. And so you have to be careful of that. So let's scan this, if you wouldn't mind.
I did already, it's up
Oh,
there.
you did. And what did that come up
Which one?
on the Lucky Charms?
Charms?
Came up 8?
It's 8.
8 out of 100.
8 out of 100. So I thought about it. I think kids would probably be healthier if they ate the cardboard that the cereal comes in rather than the cereal itself. I really do. I'm not joking. Then, here's another popular one. We have Little Debbie snack cakes, donuts in a strawberry flavor. You would scan that, John? What did that come up?
0.
0. And so we have sugar is the first ingredient, and then there's so many there's so many ingredients I can't even read some of the names on here. And so if you have something that's maybe more than 5 ingredients, I'd say put it down, especially if you can't read 4 or understand 4 of them. But this one has titanium dioxide, red number 40, red 40 lake, preservatives, corn syrup again. Unbelievable.
Sorbic acid.
Yeah. Then here's a pretty popular lunch snack, barbecue Doritos, that most kids would have at school lunches. What did that come up?
7.
A little better. Here's the ingredients: corn, vegetable oil, corn, canola, and/or sunflower. Okay, maltodextrin. Then we come on down here. It has Lake Blue number 2, again yellow 6, red 40, corn syrup again. Unbelievable. And then they're going to wash it down. Here's a popular thing that came out just recently. It's called a guzzler. I don't even know if that'll register on Yucca. I don't know if they have a barcode on this yet, but we'll see if it does or not.
So you think the colors of fresh fruits and vegetables, all those bright colors, now you're looking at all the artificial colors,
Unknown.
artificial dyes, they're basically paint. They serve no purpose in the human body. It's a chemical dye.
So this one doesn't even register.
The water that you're drinking on the table. 100 out of 100.
But I'll read the ingredients in the guzzler, because after they have the Little Debbie snack cakes and they wash it down with a guzzler, the first item is filtered water, and then the very next one is high fructose corn syrup, hexamine taphosphate, I don't even know how to pronounce that, sodium benzoate, artificial flavors. Then it has red 40, blue 1, and again, the dyes. I mean, Rob, you can speak to that more than I can. I just did something where I took this jar here, a 12-ounce can of Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or Mountain Dew. Has about 41 grams of sugar in it, and that equates to 10 teaspoons. That's how much sugar is in a can of Coke. So when a kid starts the morning and he's got some Little Debbie snack cakes and a Coke or a guzzler, and he's buzzing around, climbing the walls, gives us a pretty good idea as to why.
So when you're eating a lot of sugar, you're spiking your insulin as a hormone, and that does a lot of damage in your body. We've never had sugar in the food supply in the history of mankind until the last 30, 40 years. and it's been growing. And then you can figure, why did God give us senses? So smell, taste, and sight. And it's to discern what's good and bad to eat out of His garden. There's a biological reason. And so here, this is where they've taken the aborted fetal cells to create a chemical test palette to figure out how to manufacture synthetic artificial flavors that'll trigger the pleasure center in your brain. So when you have a fruit that ripens on the vine, it rises in minerals, tastes good, it turns to a color, has a fragrance, you enjoy eating it, it triggers pleasure centers. And so food scientists have now synthesized and figured out how to trick your body into thinking you're eating real food.
So my daughter said one time, they might have even sent something to me in a text quite a few years ago. So it was a text and little Debbie's face was much larger than it was shown on here. And it said, after little Debbie has years of these kind of snack cakes, what does little Debbie have? The answer is diabetes. And it's not a very good... So Rob has a bag here, and then we'll see which bag people want to take home with them. This one on the left or this one on the right.
Sure. Ron, you want to read off the ingredients on these as you take them out?
Let's see.
Or John?
Yeah, John, you can. You
Oh,
got
there's no,
What's the ingredient on that?
an avocado?
yeah.
The ingredient on this one? Apple. Sweet potato. So now look at the colors, and the chemical complexity of real food is amazing. And it's a building block of the human body. All this artificial synthetic food, ultra-processed food, tastes good, has nothing to do. Once you eat it, once you start eating the processed food and stuff, you become addicted to it. That's how they drive repeat sales. So your sense of taste, in large part, is a learned behavior. This is what table talk should be, and this is what we should all be learning and feeding ourselves and our friends and family. So it's love your neighbor, but don't love your neighbor to death with bad hospitality.
We'll raffle off that bag.
Okay. Okay, John.
Okay, good evening. John Mara. I'm a cancer survivor actually I call myself a cancer escapee because basically what I did was I survived the vortex of traditional protocol. It was about 14 years ago. I had symptoms of frequency and urgency of urination. It's just like I couldn't, depending on time of day, but usually I have to go to the bathroom right before I would leave to go somewhere, and then usually between 15 20 minutes later, I'd have the urge to go again. And it was just continually getting worse. Sometimes it would get a little better, but never made a connection. So then what we did is I went to my urologist. It was back in probably about 14 years ago. So I went to go see him, and I told him, I says, Doc, I'm having these symptoms, so forth. And he says, well, we'll have to put a scope in and see what's going on. So he goes in, and he says, then what happened was I'd gone out to an event where I went out with dinner with my wife, and when I came home, I went to urinate, pure blood came out. So I called him up the next day. He says, oh, come on in, we'll just do the scope, we'll see what's going on. So he goes in, he puts a scope, he finds polyps. And he says, well, you've got some polyps in there. He says, we'll just zap them out, no big deal. So I said, okay. So went in, they knocked me out, went in, they took care of it. And by the way, before that, he had to do a cystoscopy. It was one of the most painful procedures I've ever had in my life. So anyway, I went ahead and I had this procedure done. They took him out. So then I was losing blood. I wasn't feeling good. And I went back in and say, okay, I'm kind of weak and everything else. I thought that's when also I made a connection to red dye 40. Because every time I had anything with red dye 40 in it, that's when I would notice blood in my urine. So what happened was I'd gotten done with that. They removed those tumors. They were in for a biopsy. Then I was in recovery, and I had a bag. Urine was clear. Then my mom sent over some cherries. So I eat these cherries. A couple hours later, there's blood in my urine again.
Wow.
So I did some research. I found out that the non-organic cherries, not only are they sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, but they're sprayed with red dye 40.
Oh, wow.
So
Whoa.
I eliminated that. So then I went back to the doctor. I says, well, what's going on? You know, I'm losing blood, this, I'm weak. He goes, well, we're not going to worry about that right now. He goes, by the way, you got cancer. Of course, I was shocked. You know, I thought, okay, well, I guess 5 years and that'll be it, you know, if I make it. And then, so, meantime, I started doing my research. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? And what happened was they found T1 was what they found out. It was basically went through the lining, but it didn't get into the muscle. And what it was doing is it was giving me those sense of urgency and frequency. So what happened was then I was changing my diet. I'll go back. I was changing my diet, and then in the meantime, I was feeling a lot better. And I said, you know, I need to go see an oncologist at the clinic. So I went to see an oncologist there, and I said, well, doc, I need a checkup now. It's been 4 months, and I want to see. I've been feeling good, so you're not going to find anything. He goes, Mr. Meyer, he goes, look, you've got a very high-grade aggressive cancer. Because they came back, even though it didn't go into the muscle, it was a very high-grade aggressive. So he says, you know, if it comes back, we're going to have to go right to radical cystectomy. And that's where they basically take out, to remove the bladder, the prostate, surrounding lymph nodes, 4 feet of my small intestines, to construct a neobladder, so I wouldn't have an outside bag, I'd have an inside pouch. So I'm going through all that, I'm thinking, well, you're not going to have to go through all that anyway. So I'm doing, I go in there, and I get knocked out. And I told my wife before I went in, I said, by the way, I says, no matter what happens when I'm out, I says, I don't want them touching me. It's just go in there and see what's going on, but that's it. So I wake up from the surgery, from him going in there, and he goes, actually the surgery was where they insert a tube and they go in there to remove the tumors, and then they biopsy them. So he goes in, I wake up and my wife's in tears. What's going on? She goes, they found 4 new tumors bigger than the first ones. So now we're at stage 3, or stage T2 then, where it was almost getting into the muscle. So I said, okay, well, I said right away, I said, I'm not having the surgery. She says, I know. She says, what did he tell you? He says, well, he took me by the hand. He says, Mrs. Meyer, your husband's his condition is textbook. Proceeded to draw a picture and said, look, he's in a dire situation. Your husband's a very anxious person. You've got to tell me he has to have the surgery. My husband said, look outside. You see all the buildings and pillars and fountains? You think they were built by anxious leaders or calm followers? My husband is an anxious leader. So, thank you. So she went ahead and he came in a couple hours later. I said, how bad? He goes, well, we don't know until we get the pathology. I said, well, how bad does it look? Your opinion. He goes, doesn't look good. I go, what are my options? BCG treatments? And he says, no, those weren't effective. And I went through those, by the way. There were 6 weeks, which obviously didn't work because it came back with a passion. So I said, what are my other options? You get a second opinion. I go, well, you kind of are my second opinion. You mean a third opinion? Because I went to my urologist and him. He just looked at me. And I said, well, how's the rest of my bladder look? He goes, well, the rest of the bladder looks good. I said, well, look, until we've exhausted every conceivable option, it's not on the table. So went home that day. A couple days later, he calls me. Mr. Meyer, I want you and your wife to come in for a consultation. The biopsy came back, high-grade aggressive cancer. He says, so I says, well, let me get back to you. I hung up. In the meantime, I was seeing a holistic doctor, Dr. Pesic, and that's when I was eating all the rainbow foods. And I'm like, Doc, I'm eating all these foods, all the vegetables, leafy greens, all organic, but it came back. So I'm thinking, you know, what's going on? He says, well, you just stick with it. At that time, I started doing, remember when I was doing the BCG test, I'd have to test the urine for microscopic blood. Well, while I was testing with the microscopic blood, there was also a parameter on there to test for pH. Well, I noticed my pH was always low. And I says, how do I get my pH up there? So pretty much it's always eating the alkaline foods on the right side there. So then I started eating all the alkaline foods, various foods as you can see. And then because cancer patients usually have a routine pH of 4 and 5. Mine was about 5 to 6 all the time. And it had to be 7.365 is the normal. So a little bit of baking soda, put it in there, it would raise my pH up. Because again, cancer loves a very acidic environment. So then what I found out was the biggest thing was stress. What I found is that when I was eating the clean food, I was feeling great. But anytime I ate something that was processed or sugar or processed foods, I would get those symptoms of frequency and urgency. So I knew that was the gauge. But I also then noticed, once I cleaned up my diet, anytime I got mad or upset or stressed in any way, even even anger towards someone, okay, and hatred towards someone would give me those feelings of, it was a type of stress that would basically bring those symptoms back on. So basically, what I had to do is I had to go and repent. It was a form of repentance. I was going to daily mass, praying every day. It wasn't, but again, I was learning the gospel, but I wasn't living the gospel. Again, I had to learn how to forgive those employees that were stealing from me, those who offended me, and so forth. So basically, I went to confession. I just repented from all my sins. And at that point, I started living almost like a hibernated life. Stopped driving, watching the news, anything that got me stressed out, whether it be mentally, physically, psychologically, whatever it was, I removed all types of stress, because any kind of stress feeds cancer. Cancer loves an acidic environment. And when we're mad or upset or stressed in any way, it immediately lowers our pH. But on the flip side, when we're happy, joyful, and loving, it raises the pH instantly. So that was the idea. I had to be more happy, joyful, loving. And again, these were the things I took, mostly like chlorophyll and some other, these were trace minerals and things like that. Anything to build up the immune system at that point. And for breakfast, I would have vegetable juice, avocados, I'd have sauteed greens, some salads, a lot of salads. For lunch, I'd have vegetable juice again. And everything was like a lot of broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, and a lot of juicing. And then what I got into was a lot of wheatgrass. Again, what it is, it's all about what we eat. So I stayed away from all the bad foods, obviously, the wheat, the barley, all that at that point. Because again, what causes acidosis, it creates instant inflammation in the whole body. And again, these are all just samples of inflammatory foods that we can eat, that we should stay away from. And then these are the top 12 common GMO foods that we definitely need to stay away from. And that's why I can even feel the difference when I eat, like I'll go out and eat regular eggs. Because before I got cancer, I used to have backaches, my knees were bad, didn't know what it was. And here, once I reversed the cancer, not only did I reverse the cancer with that diet, but every ache, pain, and ailment disappeared. So what I did was, it was basically the inflammation that was causing it. So what happened was, by going on that diet, every ache, pain, and ailment was gone. Now, whenever I eat things like chicken, okay, or turkey, that's when my back will actually hurt. Because again, it's an animal protein, and all animal proteins create inflammation in our muscles and joints. If I eat regular eggs, if they're not organic or free range, my knees will hurt.
Wow.
My knees, I used to always have bad knees, never knew what it was. And it was never, I thought it was just old age, working in construction, finishing concrete, working on my hands and knees, that would hurt it. But now, at 65 years old, I can squat down, pick up my grandkids, lift them up. My knees are absolutely perfect right now. And again, just staying away from certain inflammatory foods that trigger my body. It doesn't affect everyone the same way, but I've noticed I've been able to identify certain foods that's done it for me. So, you can't fix your health until you fix your diet. And what really impacts is, juices provides alkalinity, builds up embryonic cells. Juicing gives the body instant energy. And these are all these are all the things I did when I was juicing, just to give my body the nutrients to build the immune system up. And then these are just different foods that we go into. If you notice that, eat certain foods as far as healing the body from all these different things. And if you notice that everything can be repaired pretty much with just fruits and vegetables. That's how we heal almost every ailment in our body. And again, these are to eliminate inflammation. These are the type of foods that we need to eat so that we reduce the inflammation in our bodies. And again, that's like Rob was saying about the good gut health. Because when we have inflammation in our gut, the micronutrients and macronutrients get into the bloodstream, and that's where we end up with a problem. So then you've got the correct way, empty fruit should be taken on an empty stomach, not as a dessert after the meal, because what happens is they sit in the stomach and then they actually ferment, and that causes the stomach gases and inflammation inside the intestines. Another thing I notice is it's a combination of foods we eat. When we eat meats, it actually slows down our digestion. Meat should be eaten always with a vegetable, because vegetables, if you slow down the digestion, it doesn't create inflammation in the intestinal walls. But when we eat meat with any kind of carbohydrate, especially breads and potatoes, when we slow down the carbohydrates, then it turns to sugar, which creates inflammation in our intestinal walls. Because again, carbohydrates are made to go through the body quickly, and when we eat them, again, with the meat, it slows it down. That's what creates the problem. So if we're going to eat meat, the best thing to eat with is a vegetable. Then the following day, we can eat a carbohydrate, we can eat pasta with vegetables, but just don't eat the meat with it. So if we do that and separate it, and again, start out always with a salad first, it'll stabilize our blood sugar level, where then we won't get our blood sugar level to spike. And again, this is all a matter of just, it's not just what we eat. And these, again, these were kale shots that I was doing, and also it was just, you put kale in there, cucumbers, celery, you know, pretty much these are like flu shots. You know, these just basically build the immune system when there's more nutrients in these than all, you know, the vegetables combined. So, and then here's the things where you've got the dirty dozen and the clean 15. The dirty dozen are the foods that if you're going to go out and you get them, they have to be organic. Because again, it's just, there's so many pesticides and chemicals in those foods. And then the clean 15 on the right side over there, those are all the foods you can get. They don't have to be organic, but again, if you can get them local, best in season is best also, is the best way to go on those. But then again, these are the ones that you want to go with. But again, these are all on the web, or you can find them on a website, so you can just search them on, just do the dirty dozen and clean 15. This, Rob already showed you the killer T cells and the Activo commercial. That was my favorite commercial, because how many counted the side effects? How many did you get? If someone can guess how many, I give them a free book. I counted 20. And actually, what I do is, I've got some books. I wrote a book on how I did this journey and how I just reversed it. So if anyone would like a book, if they make a $20 donation to the church, they get a book. How's that? And I'll sign it for them. So that'll be afterwards. So anyway, basically, it's just, you got to keep the stress down. The main thing is the stress. What I found feeds cancer more than sugar and processed foods is stress. Because when I was first going on my cancer journey, the people who went on the diet and did not deal with the stress, sometimes it worked, but most of the time it didn't. But the ones who did the diet 100% and dealt with the stress, it worked 100% of the time. Now, you only have to do it 100% until the cancer's gone. Once the cancer's gone, it's gone. I mean, my cancer's been gone over 13 years now. Wow. People say, oh, you're worried about it coming back? No, because it'll only come back if I bring it back. Now, what causes cancer? It's our diet and lifestyle. And the only way my cancer's going to come back is I have to go eat those same foods and be stressed out like I was all the time. And that's the combination. And if I don't do that, it's like epoxy A and B. Separate, they're sticky, tacky, ineffective, till you put them together. And that's the secret of basically staying cancer-free. Because when I prayed not only to know what causes cancer, I wanted to know how to reverse it, but most important, how to keep it from coming back. Because everyone who reverses cancer, the biggest fear is it coming back. You know, is it's in remission? Is it going to come back? And people say, well, what if it comes back? First of all, it's not going to come back unless I bring it back, but then if it does, I'll do the same thing I did before. Because how to reverse cancer, going on a diet alone isn't going to work. You can pray all you want, get rid of all the stress you want. If you're still eating the bad food, it's not going to work. You got to do both 100%. Then once it's gone, now with people, how to keep it from coming back is that if I'm stressed, I'll eat very, very clean. If I'm not stressed, I'll eat whatever I want in moderation. Been doing that for 13 years now. And again, I'll go out, I'll eat, I'll drink, if I go to a wedding, I'll eat, I'll drink everything. I'll have a couple cocktails, I'll eat this. And again, desserts. Now, depending on how much of the bad food I eat, if I don't eat it in moderation, I'm going to feel it the next day. I'm going to feel like a truck hit me. But then it's short-lived. Again, and it's not, because we are what we eat. Again, we can't just stick with it. People say, well, how do you stick with it? I go, I don't. You know, I had a ribeye the other night. You know, half a ribeye with my wife, we split it. You know, it's grass-fed though. I eat grass-fed beef if I do eat it. Chicken, I love chicken, but it doesn't love me, so we just have a hate-hate relationship now. It's just the way it has to be. But I tell you what, my back is absolutely perfect. My knees are perfect as long as I stay away from certain foods like the chicken and the eggs and some of the other sugars and carbs. And then I also notice that I'll get psoriasis if I eat certain carbohydrates. But then certain carbs I eat, I'm fine with. So again, it's just a matter of trial and error. But the best thing I tell people that happened to me is when I got cancer 13 years ago. Because by going on that radical diet, not only, like I said, that it reverses cancer, every ache, pain, and ailment just gone. And again, it's just, everyone who talks about it now, there's different variations of the diet to heal all kinds of ailments. Like Dr. Esselstyn reverses heart disease. His is basically fruits and vegetables, but mostly raw, and you have to chew them very well. Mine, you can't have the fruit because of the sugar in the fruit when you're reversing cancer, but you can eat, we can cook the vegetables. So I can cook the broccoli and asparagus and the other stuff. So, it's the same foods, but just a little different variation. But pretty much every disease can be reversed pretty much just by our diet. Same thing with diabetes, everything else. I mean, these are all reversible just going on the protocol. And, most of it, what causes all our problems is our type A personalities. And what it takes us to do this is a type A personality. People say, I can't do it. Okay, we can. With the help of our Lord, anything can be done. So we turn to prayer, first. And, people say, how'd you deal with your stress? You go to Jesus, go to the big guy. I mean, that's how you do it. I mean, I couldn't do it alone. And that's the most important part. Someone had asked me, well, what part of the diet do I do? Which is the most important part of this protocol? And I says, the most important part is prayer. I go, if you don't get rid of the stress first and turn it over your life to Jesus, I go, it's not going to work. I go, because you can do all the diet you want. That's why I said I was doing my research. The people who went on a diet but did not deal with the stress, sometimes it worked, but most of the time it didn't. So that's the key. So I'll leave it at that, and then if we have any questions for Rob and I, we'll be here for another 15 minutes, I guess we have. So
About 10 minutes, and
Okay.
5-day Dawn
Okay.
Civic check's going to come up, so
Okay,
10
so-
minutes.
Oh, I just wanted to interject this.
Just a couple cases. So here were some customers that came in our health food store. One woman came in with her minister lying in a wheelchair, advanced MS, and was told there's no hope, it's advanced, there's nothing you can do. And so here, a year and a half later, perfect eyesight, and she's running 5 miles every morning. Continued on a healthy diet, getting annual checkups. 12 years later, the lesions on the base stem of the brain and the optic nerve are totally gone. A couple times she's healed, she gets off her clean diet, her eyesight started going away. Went on a clean diet, eyesight came back 100%.
Wow.
And then the other was a 47-year-old man, sales executive, drinking, smoking, fast food, and a heart attack, died on the way to the emergency room. Modern medicine saved his life. So 15 meds, 20% of his heart muscle was dead, and he's a mess from all the side effects of the drugs. Friends convinced him to clean up his lifestyle. So he gave up all the bad food, smoking and eating, walking, weightlifting, started running. 3 years later, heart capacity is normal. He's off all meds, and he runs the Boston Marathon.
Wow.
So here's the dead man that ran the Boston Marathon. And then another 65-year-old guy, heart attack, and died on the way to Hillcrest Hospital. They brought him back to life, 10 meds and a pacemaker. Within 1 year, changing his diet, cardiovascular supplements, he's off all medicine, and the pacemaker removed. Everything normal. Wow. And we're hearing this every day. So we're talking to people off their blood pressure medications and a lot of different medications, this not needed. But everybody's different. So this is something you need to explore on your own. And everybody responds differently. So this is science and progress, but when you look at the benefits, we have nothing to lose.
Any
So
questions?
Any questions?
You currently have a health food store?
Not any longer. We closed it. Go ahead.
Do you have any tips on, so you don't have to take out a second mortgage to afford the organic foods
Yeah.
and grass-fed?
So here, what I found is, I don't go to the coffee shop. I don't buy all these condiments, so not spending a lot of money on junk and other things. And
Don't buy cereal, so.
yeah, so
Don't buy
I
cereal anymore.
no, that's
Especially Lucky Charms, yeah.
Exactly, that's where I'm going.
So I found out we can less expensive not to do all the bad things, and I put that money into the healthier food items.
I haven't seen my doctor in 13 and a half years. So again, not seeing a doctor, not having any doctor bills. I take no medications. I take no supplements. I actually stopped taking supplements, I think right before COVID. just because I hate taking any kind of pill, even if they're good for me. So I stopped taking them to see what happens, and because they say you can't supplement a bad diet, and so far I'm feeling great. Still haven't gotten sick, getting through COVID and all that. So I'm a testimony to that. So again, I think I can't afford not to eat organic. We make it a point because again, I think our health is more important than worrying about, like I said, a few extra dollars for the organic. And again, there's the Clean 15. You can go out there and shop. I'll go and I'll find certain things at Aldi's, and then even at Walmart's got a little section of what organic stuff. So if you can kind of look around, you can price shop and get some good prices on the organic foods.
That's what I was asking about for the tips, do you go to Aldi's?
I go to Aldi's, Walmart, Heinen's, and Whole Foods, and also some Plum Market, any of them. Whatever has organic, they all have a little bit here and there, I'll go through it.
John, what is your website?
Mara, M-A-R-R-A.
That's your website.com?
Oh, my website?
Yeah.
Oh, it's cancerescapee.com.
All these does have a lot of organic.
Cancerescapee.com, yeah. And then we also have the curesinCleveland.com is also a website. We have, they'll link together, but that's where we have our some of our talks that we gave. Rob has some of his testimonies on there also.
Yeah, I had an incident sauteing too much spinach, so I ended up with a kidney stone. And so had a CT scan. The doctor goes, it's too big to pass, we have to do emergency surgery. And then here, my wife posted it, as we're in the emergency room, she posted it on Facebook. Our youth minister called, said, we're all praying for you. The doctor walks in for the 10th time to say, hold on, we're trying to get a room so we can get you admitted to do the surgery right now. And here, all of a sudden the pain went from 1,000 to 0. I looked at the doctor, I go, you sure I can't pass this? She goes, absolutely, you have to have surgery. And I said, I am in 0 pain. How about I come back Monday for the surgery and you keep your rooms for really sick people? So I came back Monday, different urologist looked at the CT scan, he goes, they lied to you, this is passable. It was big, it was 7.5 by 4. And so when he said it was passable, I go, what about nutrition, anti-inflammatory supplements, diet? There is nothing. Here's more opioids for the pain, and that's the only thing you can do. And so we left, went to the market, I bought cucumber, celery, ginger, and turmeric, fasted, juice, and in 2 days passed the stone without even a sensation of passing it.
Wow.
And then I've talked to people that have had the surgery, and it is life-saving if you really need it. But a lot of people that have had it are still having complications and side effects. Some people don't, some people do. I saved the hospital and the insurance company a lot of money because I spent $10 on some vegetables. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on the Mediterranean diet? Good, bad?
So that's good. Even the microbiome conference study with all the research mice, they put the mice on different diets. And the mice eating the fish had the better health outcomes. And then the Italian mice were actually better because they have the Mediterranean diet.
And they had marinara sauce too.
Not olive oil and garlic.
So a lot of different varieties and versions, and here our microbiomes can be very diverse. And so different people respond pretty much to the Mediterranean, and then some people will respond better to certain foods over others. And so a lot of it's still trial and error because nobody has a test. And so you need to listen to your own body talk to you. And then you need to do your due diligence to, like a lot of people will do elimination diet, so there's like the 7 most common allergens, and so they'll give all that up. And then you start reintroducing things, or you just start eliminating, use the app and look at what packaged processed food you're eating on a regular basis. And most of us have all grown up eating it and we're not even aware of it. And then once you understand it and you establish new habits, you can actually eat really clean. And just do that for a month or 2 and see what happens. You'll be astounded. We had different departments from the hospitals, they did this, like in the rheumatology department. Here they all went on a gluten-free diet and got rid of all processed foods, and their own health problems disappeared. And then they shared that with their patients, and half of their patients were all improving and didn't need medication anymore. But they can't offer that to you.
The elephant in the room.
Huh?
The elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What exactly does this mean?
Oh, that's a company, they have a stand at the West Side Market. You can also buy their products online. But it's called Nature's Uncut. Rob and I know the owner. It's a family-owned business. Products can be bought online, but his different products, he lists different things that those products will help.
So he goes out, has third-party assays, and brings in all these medicinal culinary spices as food. They're all tested, and so that's real food. And so remember, during movies representing ancient times, biblical scenes, and the men had the satchels, women had satchels with all the spices and herbs, and they traded that, and that's what they put in their food. They did it to keep alive and healthy. It wasn't just to make their food taste good. And so all the medical research is looking at all the different herbs that are used in different cultures worldwide. And this is where a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs come from, is because of what was used historically. And then they try to synthesize what they can find as the active ingredient, and that's where a lot of medications come from. And so those are the medications that are so life-saving for emergency, trauma, stabilization. But then trying to use a drug to treat a problem long-term, a lot of this can all be resolved just by changing your diet, or making other improvements, or better managing it just by changing your diet.
Do you eat gluten-free everything?
Not all the time, but I cut way back, and I do buy sprouted grain breads, and then my wife does a sourdough bread, and then we were using sprouted spelt that I was getting, and yeah, so I cut back on refined carbohydrates. I don't even eat any refined carbohydrates anymore, and then I'll have sprouted grains, and then I'll go into times where I just don't even eat any bread at all, or minimal ones, or if I have a cracker. But I try to get clean stuff, and I look at what oils are added to it.
You eliminate wheat, corn, oats.
Right. So if you got a really serious problem, autoimmune disease, and looking at protocols for gut health, those are things that they have people do. And some of the doctors did tests with their patients, and once they eliminated everything for a period of time and their gut healed, they could reintroduce and have them every once in a while without having a problem. And, go ahead.
Yeah, is there anything specific reference for like mental health issues, like ADHD, anxiety, bipolar?
So there's...
insomnia? Is there any specific thing you can go to look
Yeah,
at?
and then what we didn't play tonight is we had the testimony from Mark Hyman when he presented before the United States Senate. And so here was a 12-year-old boy on Ritalin for 7 years, ADD, dysgraphia, can't write, allergies, asthma, and within 2 months all resolved, all meds and writing.
Strictly by just being vegetarian?
Changing your
or are there
diet.
Specific
Not even
medications or-
vegetarian.
Diet change.
And so here are some people,
How do
like
you know
one
where to
woman
do that?
mentioned,
Is there a book or something that I can look at for those specific issues?
there is, and I don't know what the name is offhand, but we
I can
can,
text.
huh? You can contact us, and then we can be in contact with you to provide that.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of resources. Go ahead,
Excuse
in
me.
the back.
Excuse me just for a minute, if I could. Could Rob address your question in just a little bit? Do you have just a few minutes? We got to wrap up at 8 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time tonight. And so we were going to just close out by having the head of our prayer ministry, Don Simichek, come up and just kind of close out the evening. But Rob and John have offered to stay and address your question. I don't mean to be rude or anything like that and cut your question short. I really don't. But I just
think it's important that everyone hear it because I'm familiar with the topic, so.
Oh, okay, all right. If that's okay with Don, then go ahead.
It's just if you know it or not, you can look into it.
Yeah.
Can you speak on the MTHFR gene mutation?
Right, so some people are not methylizing their B vitamins, B6, other Bs, and so
You're
here's,
not seeing all the chemicals that we need.
Right.
X-rays, MRIs.
and then here's your gut bacteria, and then body chemistry, And then here, how to resolve it. Some of the doctors are using the methylized versions of the B vitamins to offset and help correct the body. And then here, through dietary changes, also taking care of that.
It's a simple blood work, and 60% of us have it, so,
Right.
yeah.
And so that may be where the gut bacteria are manufacturing and doing the conversions, that we're not in trouble, and then because of what we're exposed to and doing, we've blocked that methylation process. Okay.
Don, would you be willing to come up? And if anybody has any other questions, John and Rob are willing to stay and address those questions. If you want to get their texts, their phone number for text, they're open to that as well.